Welcome back to the channel. Happy Christmas, Happy New Year and all that goes with it at this time of year. I'm going to go out in the car in a few minutes and I'm going to go down to the coast, probably to Romney Marsh, Dungeness. It's absolutely grey, miserable, windless day. It's been raining. I think it's still raining. If it's not raining, it's probably about to. It's been doing it quite a lot. And what I'm going to take down today with me in terms of equipment is this, obviously, Sony A7R4, and the Sony A7R4, I've just bought a little Tamron lens for it. It's a Tamron 20mm 2.8 prime lens, which is really nice and light, and it's weather sealed as well, which probably needs to be looking at the weather outside. I'm going to take that lens, and I'm also going to take along with me a couple of these really cheap lenses that I bought that are Minolta A mount or Sony A mount Minolta lenses. And one of the many that I've got, and if I just spin you around, I'll show you what many means. There are the whole range of the Minolta lenses I've bought over the last sort of month and a half, 2 months. And they are all different lenses, and not one of them cost me more than about £55 second hand, and they're absolutely in pristine condition. So the sum total of all of those lenses there is approximately £250 worth, and virtually every one of them, as I was saying, virtually every one of them is like new. You might wonder why I've got so many, partly because A, they're cheap, and there are 3 different ranges that Minolta made, and I didn't know which one to settle on, which one gave the best image quality. But having had and reviewed quite a few of these lenses over the last few weeks, I've decided that these sturdy metal ones, the others were plastic, or at least the range that has these very fine stripes on the rubber grip, seems to be the best quality lenses they have. And I've got a 75-300 here, and that's quite a heavy beast, but it optically works really well. It autofocuses on that adapter that I've got. It's an electric motor built into this adapter, Sony adapter, A-mount adapter for my E-mount camera. And I've also got this 35-70 Minolta lens as well, which I'm going to take along, and that's really quite small. That's actually mounted here onto the adapter, and all of these lenses fit on that adapter, obviously, because they're all A-mount. But these 2 little lenses I've found to be really good optical quality. So I've done quite a few tests with the A7R4, which is 62 megapixels, and I've really, apart from a bit of vignetting in the corners, which even my FujiFilm camera lenses do show some element of doing as well, they perform really very well, and they're capable of producing some really quite nice images in terms of image quality. So I'm just going to take those 3 bits of kit with me down in a small bag and travel lightly, and I'll take the tripod because it's a bit gloomy outside and light levels might be a bit low some of the places I might go to. So let's come along and let's see what we can find. Well, as you can tell, I have actually made it down to the seaside. This is Dungeness in Kent, and it's a very, very strange place. It's a privately owned estate, and the properties that are dotted around here are all pretty much ramshackle little sort of holiday home type buildings that have been allowed to be built on this incredibly soft and gravelly surface. It's all a pebble beach basically, and the sea used to be as close as the houses are that are behind me here, or very close to that, but now it's right over there, about, I would say, probably half a mile from where the houses and the road are. And slowly over time the sea has receded, which seems a bit odd nowadays with sea levels rising, but that's what's happened here. And it's a very unusual place because there's a lot of fishing, inshore sort of little tiny boat fishing operations happen here, and it's been happening for such a long time, and I hate to think what that was I just trod in. It's been happening for such a long time that a load of the boats are decaying where they actually just were last used and left. And apart from the fact this stuff's very difficult to walk on, because very, very sort of, it just gives way under your feet. It's worse than sand. But there's all sorts of old industrial sort of remnants. I'll show you what I mean. I'll spin you round there. You can see there's an old, almost like a little railway line running along here, and then at the side of it, just up there, there's the remains of an old boat that's decayed over the years and it's just fallen into disrepair. But these sort of things, the little rails running off into the distance here, and then the boat, yes, I think they make quite interesting photographic subjects. And although you can see there's rain on my glasses and I am getting a little bit wet, it's not raining anywhere near as hard as it was previously. And if we look over into the distance over my shoulder, this DJI probably won't pick it up, but it is actually starting to brighten up. There's some gaps starting to form in the clouds, and I'm thinking roughly in the direction the wind's blowing. So although it's spotting with rain, it's still perfectly photographically interesting, and the sky's getting good as well. So I'm going to cut it short there and just go and have a look round and see what we can find, and then I'll talk you through what I'm taking. Okay, so the first shot I've decided to take, I've got the 300 or 75 to 300 lens on. Everything's getting nicely wet, which is not really what I wanted, but as I said, these lenses didn't cost me a fortune. I don't particularly want to damage them or destroy them, but they're supposedly waterproof. And behind you is a nice little boat silhouetted against the sea, and also some interesting clouds starting to form. So I'm going to take that picture. So let me turn you around and show you what it is I'm looking at. So what I've got is the little boat just there on the horizon, and then you can't see it on this Osmo, but the clouds in the distance are forming quite an interesting pattern in the sky, which is making the sky more interesting. So I'm focusing on the boat, and I'm at f16, 10th of a second, ISO 100, and there we have a very nice, you can't see it because of the water that's on the screen on the camera, but we've got a nice little silhouetted boat and some piece of old machinery next to it. I think that makes quite a nice image. So that's the first one in the bag, and as you can see, I'm showing you the clouds in the distance. They're actually forming into quite an interesting shapes and giving some nice textures of the sky, which is nice. I think that's quite a nice sky starting to form. It certainly isn't just boring and grey, which I was talking about earlier on a different video, but yeah, it's quite nice here. I think there's some nice simplistic images to be got. So let's see what else we can get. Well, as you can see, I'm getting a bit wet. It's just spotting, but they're quite big spots of rain. So I'm getting, my hair's pretty wet, what's left of it. Camera's doing all right, the Sony should be fine. But this boat, well, half a boat actually, most of it's been destroyed, it's fallen apart, but spin you around and let you see. What I've got here is this old bit of boat. You can see the back end of the boat started to come away. This side down here should be there. This is obviously the back of it, what's left of the back of it, and there's the front of the boat, for want of a better term. But what I've got is I've got the long lens on, and I've framed this shot up, which I think is quite nice. I've got the front of the boat and then the lighthouse in the distance, and I've got an aperture which is actually allowing the lighthouse to be reasonably blurred out, which I think looks quite nice, because all of the foreground, this front part of the boat, is nicely in focus, and it looks some nice wooden detail there, which you probably can't see on the back of the camera as well as it should do. I just like the way this sort of the pointy bit on the front of the boat's sticking up and pointing towards the lighthouse itself. Might need a bit more separation there between the lighthouse and the pointed bit, so I might raise the camera up a little bit. Let's just try that. It's not going to take a lot. So let's see what that looks like. No, that's too much. Let's drop it down. Yeah, I think that works quite well. I'll just zoom out slightly here, and I'm manually focusing because it's having trouble with the aperture I've got, which is f/16, and actually been able to focus properly. So I'm going to get that shot. See, although it looks very blurred now to focus, the lighthouse compared to the front of the boat, when it actually takes a shot at f/16, I think, just get the blinkers turned off. I'll take that shot now. What's that? 1/13 of a second at f/16, and we'll zoom in. We'll actually review it. And yes, and there's the power station and various other buildings, which are now nicely out of focus, and the front is, well, the front of the boat looks quite nicely focused actually, so that's another one in the bag. I always have trouble pressing that button 3 times at the right speed that doesn't break it. So that's a nice shot. I'm quite enjoying being here, even though I'm getting wet. But yeah, the sky's getting more interesting as I talk. I'll have a mooch round and see what else I can find. Well, it does help if you have the remote mic turned on. That previous set of images stroke footage that I didn't, so hopefully the sound quality was alright. There's no wind noise or anything much at all. But I've walked up the beach a bit further here, and I've come up against the bow. I'm getting very nautical here. The bow of this little boat. Again, it's an old wooden boat that's seen better days and is not in service now, clearly. I'll spin you around and see what I'm trying to compose, basically. I'll try to, fingers are getting a bit cold. Right, so we've got this beautiful moody sky all around this boat. Some nice light over there in the distance, and I've moved the camera. I've got the 20mm sort of Tamron lens on there, and that 20mm perspective gives me quite an interesting full frame of the front of the boat, which you can probably just about see there, and all the red highlights are showing everything's beautifully in focus. And I've got a bit of interest in the sky. I'm not sure if I'm going to take it this way up. I'll take it this way up, but I might actually drop it down and put it horizontally, normal landscape mode rather than portrait mode. Let's get that shot. That's a nice pleasing little image. I particularly like this little piece of wood at the bottom of the screen here, which is this piece of wood on the ground down there, which sort of just gives a bit of an angle to the boat. So there's an angle going across the front of the bow. The boat's tipped slightly over, and we've got this nice little piece of wood giving a bit of foreground interest. And as you can see probably there, all of the wood's starting to come away from the main spine of the boat. So it's never going to see life again as a boat. Might be firewood at one day. So that's that shot. Let me see what it looks like the other way up. See, if I put it this way up, I don't get that piece of wood in unless I walk backwards with the camera. Now I can get the little piece of wood in, and there's a couple of boats, the tiny little spots in the distance there, which are 2 little boats right over there. Oh, it's a boat and something else, piece of machinery. But I'm getting more of the sky in, so I might actually take that shot. Yep, that's working quite well. I'll take that one as well. This little Tamron lens that I've got, it really wasn't very expensive, and as you've seen in the past, I've used Tamron lenses quite a bit, and I've got another one coming. I'm trying to lighten up my gear. I've got the FujiFilm and the lenses for that, and they are heavy. I have to think twice about taking them out. I love taking them out, but I'm finding that the amount of weight is really restrictive in some of the places I can go, and the amount of bulk associated with them. So what I'm doing is I'm retooling my sort of lenses. I've got all these Minolta lenses, yeah, which is fine, but they don't focus particularly quickly or accurately with this body through the adapter. So although I love them, and it's nice that they're cheap lenses in the scheme of things. I'm not using them as much as I thought I would do. So what I'm rejigging my lenses back to is I've got this 20mm Tamron lens. I didn't want to go for the very expensive 17 to 28 because 20's wide enough for me for most things, and I've got a 28 to 200 coming second hand off eBay, probably in the next week hopefully, and I'll probably just use those two lenses pretty much exclusively, and they're very light. This particular 20mm lens is really nice and pleasantly small and light, compact, and the image quality is excellent. And I recall from the last time I had a 28 to 200, I couldn't fault it. I really couldn't. It was light, it was easy, it was pretty much a general purpose, do most things lens, and for my photography that's really pretty much what I want. Anyway, enough of the bleating on. I'll probably get a curious shot to be had. I'll spin you around here, which is, I'll resend to you, spin you around. There's an old concrete block here, and on it is an old, I'll walk you over to it, there is a remains of an old engine, piston engine by the look of it, some sort of single cylinder engine that obviously has got a flywheel at the left hand end, and it's got some sort of power takeoff shaft at this end. It's probably used for winding the boats up the beach or something. It's got a gearbox on it as well. So and behind it in the distance we've got Dungeness power station, and I'm thinking of probably framing the old and the new, the old engine versus the new technology, or at least relatively new technology, of the power station, nuclear power station I might add in the distance. So I'm going to try and frame that up, and I'll be getting really very close to the little engine here so that the rest of everything's in the background. So let me get set up for that and let's see what we can get from that. Okay, I've got that framed up pretty much as I want, and I'll turn you around and let you see how precariously the camera and tripod is set up. So as you can probably see, I've got the tripod on this little outcrop of concrete here, which is nice and solid. I've got the legs extended to the point that I can get the camera up high enough so that what I'm seeing is Dungeness power station there, and then we've got this nice L formed by the cylinder head of the engine and the flywheel here, and then down here there's an old wheel mechanism and an old sleeper leaning up against the side of the concrete, which is here. And I think that's quite an interesting sort of industrial statement. Well, sounds a bit pretentious, but the old and the new, shall we say. And I've got blinkers showing, so let's just dial in a bit of compensation. And I'm focused on the centre of the engine, F18, loads of depth of field, going right off into the distance. Let's get that shot. That's quite a nice little shot actually. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that shot. That looks quite nice. I'm hoping these images will come out alright. They're looking quite nice actually. I suspect they'll end up being black and white because of the nature of the day here. There's really no colour anywhere to really talk about. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. It really does help the channel. Take care, have a good Christmas and a Happy New Year.